Student Ministry Update. How are you guys doing? No, I did not make over my office. I'm actually working from home today. My car is in the shop getting fixed, and so just doing everything from the house here. But there's just a couple things I wanted to run by you for this week for you to be aware of. First thing, I just wanted to celebrate the fact that yesterday, on Sunday, we had 3 more exchanges in GPS. And so, yes, kids are actually able to make that decision even in the midst of a sex series. And so yesterday we talked about lies and the lies that the world would say about sex and how we're supposed to view it. But I closed out by saying that the world not only tells lies about sex, but it promotes lies about what it means to know God. And so at the end, we're able to just dispel some of those things and give the opportunity for students to be able to accept Christ. And so we want to celebrate the fact that we have 3 more new brothers and sisters in Christ. And I haven't been doing a good job recently of celebrating that, but we need to celebrate that because our mission at Grace Point is to lead common people to an uncommon life in Christ. And so in that moment, when a student makes a decision, that's where that moment starts. And so we have a brand new baby brother or sister in Christ. And so over the last really 5 or 6 months since August, since our focus on Sunday mornings has been to make sure that a student has the opportunity to respond to the gospel in any context that we're preaching, we've seen God bless that, and we have seen 70, 80, 90 students accept Christ. And so I wanted to bring that up, and the reason why is because we don't want to see a baby born and just leave them there to fend for themselves. We have a responsibility at Grace Point, and obviously you as life group leaders for students to be able to disciple and to nurture these students into what it means to follow Jesus. It's one thing to accept Him, but it's another thing to have a lifestyle, a grace lifestyle, to where you're living this out and impacting your world for Christ's sake. And so what we're doing is we're trying to tighten up some of these things. And so what you might have gotten last Wednesday is a list of names of students in your group, or that should be in your group, at least that would fall under your grade and gender, that we would love for you to be able to compare notes and say, yeah, this one is plugged into a life group in my life group. And if they're not, what we want to do is we want to start making some serious efforts towards contacting these students to get them involved into the life group, because this is where they're going to be discipled, and this is where they're going to be able to experience community for the first time as a Christ follower. And so we want to be good stewards of that and be able to honor God in this way. So work through your list this coming week. Let Virginia know who you're able to get in touch with, what the conversations were like, and most importantly, we want to be able to bring them into life groups. What we're going to be doing starting the week after spring break is we're going to be starting an 8-week series as a whole on Wednesday nights, talking about what it means to follow Christ. And so for some it may be a refresher course. For some it may be the very first time that they've heard what it means to walk in the first steps of being discipled and understanding how to study the Bible and what baptism is about and can you lose your salvation, and all these just great questions that we want to be able to answer within the context of a small group. We want to do this as just a overall sweeping effort to be able to bring every single student that has accepted Christ at GPS through that experience, and have their peers who have been walking with the Lord to be able to speak into their lives as well, and also to be reminded themselves of what it means to follow Christ and the basics of what that looks like. So we're going to be doing that starting the week after spring break, and so we want to make sure every single student that we can get a hold of and bring in, we want them plugged into life groups, because that is the hub of this ministry. It's you loving students and multiplying our influence that way. So make sure you work through that list. If you have any problems, let Virginia know. If you're not able to do it, we need to know that too, so we can get someone to contact them, but we don't want to let any students fall through the cracks. And so let us know how you're doing with that. Get that knocked out by the end of this week would be great, and let us know how that worked out. So that's the deal with that. This coming Saturday, just wanted to remind you, it's our first Saturday serve. Spring is well on its way, so we're going to have some great opportunities to do some really cool stuff on the property at Grace Point, but also be able to get back into homes of Grace Pointers who need our help. And so with that, we need your involvement. This is a great time to be able to connect with your students, get them excited about serving and blessing those within the Grace Point family, taking ownership of Grace Point grounds themselves, and so they'll take personal pride in it. And so please make an effort to come. It's from 9 a.m. to noon. It goes by relatively quickly and really is a lot of fun. And what you'll find surprising is these students will show up. They are excited to work. They're actually bummed when we run out of jobs before noon arrives. And so it's really a wonderful thing to be a part of. And so come support them and model to them what it looks like just to serve your community. So come out 9 o'clock this coming Saturday. The last thing I just wanted to run by you is just a little training bit that I wanted to throw your way for you to be aware of and to be continually working on is your presentation on Wednesday nights. So normally what you'll find in the live curriculum is that we schedule out several weeks in advance what we're going to be teaching on and what the curriculum will be for a Wednesday night. And, and what we want to do is we want to be able to know our stuff. We want to study our material. We want to do due diligence for these students to be able to have studied our stuff so we can come in prepared. It's easy to wing it a couple of weeks, but after a while, students are going to realize that, you know, you didn't study your lesson. And so I've walked by a couple of groups and I've heard some conversations, and it's amazing how a student can hear one verse and then they can start talking about aliens or something, you know. And so I hear little bits and pieces and I'm like, how did they get off on that? So discussion is great, but you want to make sure that you keep the discussion directed in a very broad and general way to the point of the actual lesson itself. And so don't let the students hijack your lesson and hijack the teaching. So bring them back in and say, you know what, I'm glad you're curious about aliens, but let's talk about what it means to be discipled in 2011, you know? So always be pulling them back in, validate their comments, but make sure that you're staying on task. And the best way that you can do that is studying your lesson in advance. And so I know that you are, but do your best a couple days in advance to read through it, but beyond that, pray through it, because you know your students better than I do, and no one knows them like you, and you know those areas within that lesson that's really going to probably stand out to them, that's going to mean a lot to them, it's going to be relevant to their lives. And so just want to make sure that you come in prepared and armed and ready to do ministry, because you are their student minister. And so I want to give you all the tools that you need in order to be the most effective for the kingdom's sake. And so make sure that you're on task and doing your part to come prepared and fully surrendered to be used by God. So anyway, that's really it for this week. We're off to a great start. The sex series has spawned a lot of wonderful conversations. I've gotten a lot of messages, a lot of great feedback, and so we're having a lot of fun with it, and I hope that you are as well, and that you're using these opportunities to talk about a very sensitive, normally awkward topic, and using it to be able to help a student avoid the pitfalls that our culture puts out, that so many students fall into. And so thank you for standing in the gap and loving your kids like you do. I love you guys, and I will see you Wednesday. Have a wonderful week.